A delivery app? Tom's laughter echoed through our parents' living room. That's your big idea, Ethan? Another delivery app. I sat at the dining table, my business plan spread out in front of me, watching my older brother's face redden with mocking laughter. Our sister Lisa joined in from her spot on the couch, not even bothering to look up from her phone. Because the world definitely needs another way to get takeout, she smirked. Really revolutionary stuff, little brother. It's not just for takeout, I tried to explain, pointing to my carefully prepared slides. SwiftServe is going to revolutionize how local businesses handle deliveries. Restaurants, yes, but also grocery stores, pharmacies, retail shops. Oh, please, Tom cut me off. Like Uber Eats and DoorDash don't already do all that? Face it, Ethan, you're 3 years too late to this party. I gritted my teeth. At 25, I was the youngest of the 3 Hamilton siblings, and according to them, the least successful. Tom, 32, was a regional sales director at a Fortune 500 company. Lisa, 28, had just made junior partner at her consulting firm. And me, I just quit my stable job as a software developer to pursue my dream. Those apps focus on big chains and franchises, I continued, trying to keep my voice steady. SwiftServe will partner with local businesses, help them compete with the giants. We'll offer better rates, more flexibility, real-time inventory management. Management? Lisa finally looked up from her phone. You've never managed anything in your life. You barely managed to keep your last job for 2 years. I quit that job, I corrected her, to focus on this. Right, Tom nodded with exaggerated sympathy. You quit your perfectly good programming job to build an app that already exists. Real smart move there, genius. Our parents chose that moment to walk in, carrying coffee and dessert. One look at the scene, my presentations, Tom's condescending smile, Lisa's eye rolls, and Mom's face fell. Oh, Ethan, she sighed. Are you still on about this app idea? Helen, Dad touched her arm gently. Let's hear him out. But I could see the worry in his eyes. The same look he'd given me when I told him I was leaving my job. I already secured initial funding, I said quickly. Angel investors who believe in the concept. We're starting beta testing next month in. How much of your savings have you burned through? Tom interrupted. Because when this fails, and it will fail, you'll need something to fall back on. I didn't tell them that I'd already invested my entire savings, sold my car, and moved into a tiny studio apartment to fund the initial development. They didn't need to know that I'd been living on ramen and working 20-hour days for the past 6 months. I know what I'm doing, I said instead. Lisa laughed again, that sharp, dismissive laugh I'd grown to hate. Like you knew what you were doing with that social media platform you tried to build in college. How'd that work out? That was different. I've learned. Or that cryptocurrency trading bot last year. Tom joined in. The one that was going to make us all rich? This isn't like those times, I insisted, my voice rising. SwiftServe is different. The market research, the business plan, the technology, it's all solid. We're solving real problems for real businesses. Honey, Mom sat down beside me, using her gentlest voice, the one that somehow hurt worst of all. Maybe it's time to be practical. Tom's company is always hiring in IT. He could put in a word. I don't need a job at Tom's company. I stood up, gathering my presentations. I'm building something here. Something big. Something big, Tom scoffed. Little brother, you're building a pipe dream. The delivery market is saturated. The big players have it locked down. You're going to lose everything chasing this fantasy." I looked around at their faces. The pity, the condescension, the absolute certainty that I was making a huge mistake. None of them had even bothered to read my business plan or look at the market analysis I'd spent months preparing. "You're wrong," I said quietly. "All of you. And one day you'll see just how wrong you were." I walked out of that house with their laughter following me. But I didn't slow down. In my beaten-up Honda Civic, the only thing I hadn't sold to fund SwiftServe, I had my laptop, 3 monitors, and enough determination to prove them all wrong. That night, in my tiny studio apartment, I worked until sunrise. The beta version of SwiftServe was almost ready. What my family didn't know, what none of them had bothered to ask about, was that we already had partnerships lined up with 50 local businesses in our test market. My phone buzzed. A message from Marcus Chen, our lead developer. "Backend updates complete. Ready for final testing." I smiled, thinking about my siblings' mockery. They thought SwiftServe was just another delivery app. They couldn't see what we were really building: a complete local commerce ecosystem that would change how small businesses competed in the digital age. The next few months were a blur of coding, meetings, and endless cups of coffee. We launched the beta in a small college town, partnering with local restaurants, bookstores, and grocery shops. The response was immediate. SwiftServe wasn't just another delivery app. It was a lifeline for small businesses struggling to compete with giant chains. Our platform didn't just handle deliveries. It provided inventory management, customer analytics, and marketing tools that leveled the playing field. 3 months after that disastrous family dinner, we had our first major breakthrough. A local newspaper ran a story about how SwiftServe had helped save a historic bookstore from closing. The owner's quote made me smile. "It's not just delivery. It's like having a whole digital department at our fingertips." The article caught the attention of a major venture capital firm. Suddenly, the meetings I couldn't get before were happening. Investors who'd ignored my emails were calling me. I didn't tell my family about any of it. Let them think I was failing. Let them believe their mockery was justified. Success would be sweeter when they finally saw it for themselves. 6 months in, SwiftServe had expanded to 3 cities. Our user base was growing exponentially, and our business partners were reporting revenue increases of up to 40%. Then came the call that changed everything. "Ethan Hamilton?" The voice was unfamiliar. "This is James Morrison from TechFund Ventures. We've been watching SwiftServe's growth with interest." TechFund Ventures, one of the biggest names in tech investment, known for backing companies like Uber and Airbnb in their early days. "We'd like to discuss leading your series of funding round. How does $50 million sound for a starting point?" I gripped my phone tighter, glad I was sitting down. "That sounds interesting. Excellent. Our team has reviewed your technology, your market strategy, your growth metrics. We believe SwiftServe isn't just another delivery app. It's the future of local commerce. Not just another delivery app." The words my siblings had thrown at me mockingly were now being used by one of the most successful venture capitalists in the country, but with admiration instead of derision. After the call, I sat in my small apartment, looking at the whiteboard where I'd mapped out SwiftServe's future. We were about to go from bootstrapped startup to major player. My phone buzzed again. A message in the family group chat. "Tom. Hey everyone. Big news. Just got promoted to VP of Sales. Lisa. Congratulations. Dinner to celebrate? Mom. So proud of you, honey. This weekend? Dad. That's my boy. I stared at the messages, remembering all the family dinners where they'd bragged about their careers while dismissing my dreams. Soon, very soon, they'd learn what real success looked like. But first, we had an empire to build. 1 year after that first mocking family dinner, I sat in my new corner office on the 38th floor of a downtown skyscraper, watching Swift Serve's real-time statistics scroll across multiple screens. We were now operating in 20 major cities, with over 10,000 local businesses on our platform. The $50 million from Tech Fund Ventures had turned into $200 million in Series B funding. Forbes had just named SwiftServe one of the top 10 startups to watch. Our valuation had crossed $1 billion, making us an official unicorn. And my family still thought I was struggling. Mr. Hamilton? My executive assistant Sarah appeared at the door. The Singapore team is ready for their update call. And your sister Lisa has called 3 times this morning. I glanced at my phone's missed calls. Lisa had indeed been trying to reach me, probably to brag about her latest promotion or to offer more helpful career advice. Take messages from Lisa, I said. I'll deal with family matters later. The Singapore call was crucial. We were about to launch in Asia, starting with Singapore and Hong Kong. SwiftServe wasn't just changing local commerce in America. We were going global. Mid-call, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Honey, please call Lisa. She has an exciting opportunity for you. I muted my microphone and laughed. An exciting opportunity. Our company had just closed deals worth hundreds of millions, and they still thought I needed their help finding opportunities. After the call, Sarah brought in my afternoon schedule. The acquisition team from Delivery Giant is here. They're waiting in the main conference room. Delivery Giant, one of the big players my brother Tom had said had the market locked down. Now they were here, trying to buy us out before we took more of their market share. Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes, I said, straightening my Brioni suit. Another detail my family didn't know. Success had allowed me certain luxuries. The Delivery Giant team looked nervous as I entered the conference room. Their CEO, Mark Stevens, stood to greet me. Ethan, thanks for meeting with us. We'll cut right to the chase. We want to acquire SwiftServe. Name your price. I sat down, enjoying the irony. A year ago, my siblings had mocked me for trying to compete with companies like Delivery Giant. Now those same companies were trying to buy us out. Not interested, Mark, but thanks for coming by. We're prepared to offer $2 billion, he pressed. Cash and stock. I smiled, thinking about Tom's words. The big players have it locked down. The problem, Mark, is that SwiftServe isn't just another delivery app. We're not competing with you. We're reshaping the entire market. Your model focuses on large chains. Ours empowers local businesses. You're offering $2 billion because you know we're worth far more than that. $3 billion, he said quickly. Too quickly. I stood up. Let me show you something. I led them to our main operations center, where wall-to-wall screens displayed SwiftServe's network in real time. Thousands of deliveries happening simultaneously. Real-time inventory updates from local businesses. Customer data flowing through our AI systems. This is the future of local commerce, I said. And it's not for sale. After they left, I checked my messages again. Lisa had called twice more. Finally, curious about this exciting opportunity, I called her back. Ethan! Finally. Her voice was too bright, too eager. Listen, I've been thinking about your situation. My firm is launching a new digital division, and I convinced them to consider you for a junior analyst position. I nearly dropped my phone. Junior analyst? I know, it's entry level, she continued, missing my tone completely. But it's a foot in the door, a real career path. Better than wasting time on that app thing, right? I looked around my office, at the awards on the walls, the view of the city, the evidence of success they somehow still couldn't see. Lisa, I said carefully, how's the consulting business going? Amazing. She launched into a detailed description of her latest project. We just landed a major client in the tech sector. They need help with their digital transformation strategy. Would that client be Andersen Global? I interrupted. Silence. Then, how did you know that? Because they approached us first. They're implementing SwiftServe's platform across their entire retail division. The contract is worth $50 million. More silence. That app thing you think I'm wasting time on. We're now in 20 cities, Lisa. We have over 1,000 employees. Our last funding round valued us at $3.5 billion. That can't be right, she stammered. We would have heard. Would you? When's the last time any of you actually asked about my work? Asked to see what I was building? Before she could respond, Sarah appeared at my door. Mr. Hamilton? The board meeting is starting. I have to go, I told Lisa. Board meeting. But hey, thanks for thinking of me for that junior analyst position. Always good to have a backup plan, right? I hung up, imagining her face as reality finally began to crack her perception of her struggling little brother. The board meeting was another triumph. Our expansion plans were ahead of schedule. Revenue had tripled in the last quarter, and we had just acquired our biggest competitor in the local delivery space. As I wrapped up my presentation, my phone buzzed again. A message from Tom. Just heard something interesting about SwiftServe. Need to talk ASAP. I smiled. Word was finally getting around. But they still didn't know the biggest news, the development that would force them to fully confront their mistake in doubting me. SwiftServe was about to go public. And there was one more detail they didn't know: their precious corporate jobs. Their companies were about to undergo major restructuring. Both Tom's employer and Lisa's consulting firm had been losing market share to businesses using SwiftServe's platform. They would soon be looking for new opportunities, and I knew exactly where they'd try to find them. After all, SwiftServe was hiring. We needed regional managers in several cities. I opened my laptop and sent a quick email to HR. When applications come in from Tom or Lisa Hamilton, forward them directly to me. The family that had laughed at my dreams was about to learn a valuable lesson about underestimating people, and I was going to enjoy teaching it. The morning of SwiftServe's IPO, I stood in my private office suite at our headquarters, adjusting my tie as I prepared for the opening bell ceremony. The Wall Street Journal's headline caught my eye. SwiftServe IPO set to be largest tech offering of the year. My phone buzzed. A message from Tom. We need to talk. It's urgent. Something big happening at work. I knew exactly what was happening at his work. His company had just announced major layoffs. They'd lost 40% of their market share to businesses using SwiftServe's platform. Tom's division would be the first to go. Another message, this time from Lisa. My firm is undergoing restructuring. Can we meet? I need career advice. The irony wasn't lost on me. The siblings who had mocked my career choices now needed my help. They just didn't know it yet. Mr. Hamilton? Sarah appeared at my door. Your parents are in the lobby. They're quite insistent about seeing you. I checked my watch. 2 hours until the opening bell. Send them up. My parents entered cautiously, taking in the massive office with its floor-to-ceiling windows and city views. Mom's eyes widened at the Swift Serve CEO nameplate on my desk. Ethan, Dad started, his voice uncertain. We've been seeing some things in the news. About Swift Serve? I smiled. Yes, we're going public today. Initial valuation around $50 billion. Mom sat down heavily in one of the leather chairs. 50 billion? That's right. That little delivery app you all laughed at? Turns out it was worth something after all. But why didn't you tell us? Mom's voice cracked. Tell you? I laughed softly. I tried. Remember that family dinner a year ago? When I laid out my entire business plan, Tom called it a pipe dream. Lisa mocked me for wasting my time. And you? I looked at Dad. You wanted me to get a real job instead. Before they could respond, Sarah buzzed in. Mr. Hamilton? Your brother and sister are here too. They seem agitated. Perfect timing. Send them in. Tom and Lisa burst into the office, both looking disheveled, a far cry from their usual polished corporate appearances. Ethan. Tom's face was red. Did you know about this? Did you know our company was losing business to Swift Serve? And my firm. Lisa added. We just lost our biggest clients because they're all switching to Swift Serve's platform. I leaned back in my chair, enjoying the moment. You mean the app that was too late to the party? The one that was competing in a locked-down market? Understanding slowly dawned on their faces. You're behind all this, Tom stammered. Swift Serve isn't just a delivery app, I said, standing up. It's a complete digital transformation platform. We're changing how local businesses compete in the digital age. Those big clients you lost, they didn't just switch to our platform, they're thriving on it. Growing, expanding, while traditional businesses, like your employers, are falling behind. But you never said. Lisa's voice trailed off. Said what? That I was succeeding. That my pipe dream was revolutionizing entire industries. You never asked. You were too busy mocking my choices, too convinced of your own success to see what I was building. I walked to the window, looking out at the city where Swift Serve had started. And now, in about an hour, we're going public. Want to know something interesting? After the IPO, my net worth will be more than both your companies combined. The silence in the room was deafening. Honey, Mom stepped forward. We're so proud. No, I cut her off. You don't get to be proud now. You get to watch. Watch as that app you dismissed changes the world. Watch as your perfect corporate children come looking for jobs at my company. Tom and Lisa exchanged glances. Actually, Tom cleared his throat. That's partly why we're here. With the layoffs coming, you want jobs at Swift Serve. I finished for him. Funny how things work out, isn't it? We do have some openings. Regional manager positions. Entry level, of course. Entry level? Lisa protested. But I'm a partner at a failing consulting firm, I interrupted. Your experience means nothing here. You'd have to start from the bottom. Learn our system, prove your worth. Just like I did when you were all laughing at me. Sarah appeared at the door. Mr. Hamilton? The opening bell ceremony is in 30 minutes. Thank you, Sarah. I turned back to my family. You're welcome to watch the ceremony. Front row seats to see your little brother's pipe dream make history. The next hour was surreal. My family sat in stunned silence as I rang the opening bell at NASDAQ. SwiftServe's stock soared in the first minutes of trading. By lunch, we had exceeded all projections. Back in my office, I handed them each a folder. "What's this?" Tom asked. "Job applications," I replied. "If you want to work at SwiftServe, you'll need to apply through proper channels. No family shortcuts." "But we're your siblings," Lisa protested. "Funny, that didn't seem to matter when you were mocking my dreams. Why should it matter now?" Dad stepped forward. "Son, we were wrong. All of us. We should have supported you, believed in you." "Yes, you should have." I sat back down at my desk. "The applications are due by Friday. The starting salary is $45,000 a year. And one more thing. Your direct supervisor? That college kid you said would never amount to anything because he was just a programmer. Marcus Chen. I made him Chief Technology Officer last month." Their faces were priceless. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a company to run. Sarah will show you out." As they filed out of my office, I called after them. "Oh, and one more thing. Remember how you all laughed when I said I'd change the future of local commerce? Check today's stock price. Then check your own company's stock. See who's laughing now." The door closed behind them, leaving me alone in the office where I'd built my empire. My phone buzzed with notifications. SwiftServe's stock was still climbing. News outlets were calling it the most successful tech IPO in years. I opened my laptop to send one final email to the family group chat. "Thanks for not believing in me. It made success that much sweeter. P.S. Those job applications, they're due by Friday. Don't be late." Then I turned to the real work, continuing to build the company that had proved them all wrong. Because success isn't just about proving doubters wrong, it's about proving yourself right. And I was just getting started. Sarah poked her head in one last time. "Your next appointment is here. The CEO of your brother's company. They want to discuss a potential partnership." I smiled. "Tell him he'll have to apply through proper channels, just like everyone else." Looking out at the city, I thought about that first family dinner, when they laughed at my dreams. Now they were all applying to work for me, hoping I'd save their careers. But I hadn't built SwiftServe to prove them wrong. I'd built it because I saw a future they couldn't imagine. Their mockery had just made success sweeter. The final irony? They'd have to use SwiftServe's app to order lunch in their new jobs. Every delivery would remind them of the dreams they'd laughed at. Sometimes success is the best revenge. And sometimes the best part isn't the billions you make. It's watching those who doubted you realize just how wrong they were. The day my grandmother died, I inherited two things: her fortune and her wisdom. Sometimes, she had written in her final letter, "People show their truest selves only when they think you have nothing." I was 23 when I received that letter, along with documents detailing my inheritance: $50 million in diversified investments, real estate holdings across 3 continents, and controlling shares in several major corporations. My grandmother, Eleanor Wright, had built an empire from nothing, but she'd done it quietly. The world knew the businesses, but few knew the woman behind them. My parents never understood her. To them, Eleanor was just the frustratingly frugal mother-in-law who refused to fund their lavish lifestyle. They didn't know she was actually one of the wealthiest women in Chicago. That was exactly how she wanted it. "Sophia," my mother's voice cut through my thoughts as I sat at our dining room table, still holding the letter. "Did that grandmother of yours leave us anything useful, or was it just another collection of her precious books?" I looked up at Diana Maxwell, the woman who had spent the last 20 years trying to mold me into her version of the perfect daughter and failing miserably. She stood in our kitchen doorway, immaculately dressed as always, disappointment etched into every line of her face. "Just books," I lied smoothly, tucking the letter away. "And some old photographs." She sighed dramatically. Typical. That woman never understood the importance of maintaining proper social standing. Do you know what the Hendersons would say if they could see our 10-year-old car? I did know. I'd heard about the Hendersons, the Blackwells, and every other family my mother desperately tried to impress for the past 2 decades. Their opinions mattered more to her than oxygen. "I'm sure they're too busy with their own lives to care about our car, Mom." "That's exactly the kind of attitude that worries me," she snapped. "You're just like her. No understanding of how the world really works. Thank God Alexander has more sense." Ah, yes, Alexander. My younger brother, the golden child. Even now, at 20, he had never worked a day in his life. Why should he? Mom and Dad funded his every whim, from his failed startup ventures to his collection of luxury watches. Speaking of Alexander, my mother continued, brightening considerably, "He's just been accepted into Harvard Business School. Your father and I are throwing a celebration dinner tonight. All the right people will be there. Wear something appropriate." Her eyes swept critically over my simple dress and minimal jewelry. I nodded, not mentioning that I'd graduated summa cum laude from Northwestern's business school last year. There had been no party for that. Instead, my parents had spent that weekend at Alexander's amateur golf tournament. Later that evening, I sat in my small apartment above the bookstore where I supposedly worked, reviewing my grandmother's documents. The bookstore job was actually a front. I owned the building and 3 others on the block through one of my grandmother's holding companies. But as far as my family knew, I was just a struggling bookkeeper, living paycheck to paycheck. My phone buzzed with a text from my father. "Don't be late tonight. The Blackwells are bringing their son James. Wear the blue dress your mother bought you." James Blackwell. Of course, they were still trying to orchestrate that match, seeing him as my ticket to proper society. If they only knew that I could buy the Blackwells company 3 times over. I arrived at my parents' house precisely on time, wearing a simple black dress instead of the gaudy blue one my mother preferred. The valet? Yes, they had hired a valet for the evening. Gave me a sympathetic look as I handed him the keys to my modest Honda Civic. Inside, the house was transformed. Crystal champagne flutes caught the light from the grand chandelier, elegant flower arrangements adorned every surface, and the air was thick with expensive perfume and pretension. "Sophia." My mother's voice carried across the foyer, tight with barely concealed irritation. "I thought I told you to wear the blue dress." "This one was clean," I replied simply. She closed her eyes briefly, gathering patience. "At least try to make a good impression on James. His family's company is very successful." I bit back a smile, remembering the report on my desk about Blackwell Industries' recent financial troubles. Their success was mostly smoke and mirrors at this point. Alexander chose that moment to make his entrance, drawing every eye in the room. He wore a perfectly tailored tuxedo that probably cost more than my supposed monthly salary. "There's my boy," our father boomed, clapping him on the shoulder, Harvard Business School's newest star. I watched as person after person congratulated him, praising his natural business acumen and brilliant mind. None of them seemed to remember his 3 failed businesses, all funded by our parents' increasingly strained resources. James Blackwell sidled up to me, champagne in hand. "Sophia," he smiled, all white teeth and practiced charm. still working at that little bookstore. Someone has to pay the bills, I said mildly. He laughed as if I'd told a particularly amusing joke. You know, my family's company always has positions available for motivated individuals. I'll keep that in mind. The evening continued in this vein, a parade of wealth and subtle condescension. I watched my parents fawn over Alexander, making endless excuses for his past failures while pointing to his imagined future successes. But beneath the sparkle and shine, I could see the cracks. The way my father's hand shook slightly as he signed the catering bill. The tight look around my mother's eyes when someone mentioned their recent vacation. Actually, a desperate business trip to save a failing investment. They were in trouble, though they'd die before admitting it. Years of funding Alexander's expensive education, failed ventures, and extravagant lifestyle had taken their toll. The mansion they were so proud of, the one they'd remortgaged 3 times to maintain appearances, was slowly slipping through their fingers. What they didn't know was that I'd been watching, waiting, and quietly buying up their debt through various shell companies. Every desperate loan, every refinanced mortgage, I owned them all. As I drove home that night in my sensible Honda, I thought about my grandmother's words. People do show their truest selves when they think you have nothing. And soon, very soon, my family was going to show exactly who they really were. The signs of my parents' financial collapse became impossible to ignore, even for them. It started with small things. The household staff was temporarily reduced. Their country club membership became inactive. And suddenly my mother discovered a passion for vintage fashion. But Alexander's lifestyle never changed. Even as the family finances crumbled, my parents continued funding his every whim. The day I saw him drive past my bookstore in a brand new Porsche, I knew they had finally hit rock bottom. I was in my real office, not the cramped bookstore back room where I pretended to work, but my actual office on the 47th floor of downtown Chicago's most prestigious building. As CEO of Wright Investments, I had a perfect view of the city my grandmother had helped build. Miss Wright, my assistant Sarah buzzed in. Your brother just made another withdrawal from your parents' emergency fund. I pulled up the banking records on my screen. There it was, $175,000 transferred to a luxury car dealership. Money they definitely didn't have. How much do they have left? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Less than $50,000, Mom. And their mortgage payment is due next week. I leaned back in my chair, thinking about the careful web I'd woven over the past year. Through various holding companies, I owned not just their mortgage, but all their outstanding debt. Every credit card, every loan, every desperate attempt to maintain their facade of wealth. I controlled it all. Schedule the foreclosure notices, I instructed Sarah. It's time. The next morning, I arrived at the bookstore early, knowing what was coming. Right on schedule, my mother burst through the door, her designer handbag genuine but last season. Sophia. Her voice was shrill with panic. Something terrible has happened. The bank. They're saying they're going to foreclose on the house. I looked up from the ledger I was pretending to review. What? How is that possible? Your father. There have been some business setbacks. But it's just temporary. We just need a little help. She reached across the counter, gripping my hand. Darling, how much do you have saved? I almost laughed. After years of mocking my little bookstore job, she was now eyeing my supposed savings like a lifeline. Mom, I make $35,000 a year. After rent and bills, I'd barely save anything. Her face fell. But surely you must have something. An emergency fund? I have about $3,000 saved. I lied. But that's everything. We need it, she said immediately. Just until your father's deals come through. Alexander has some very promising ventures in the works. I sat back studying her. What about Alexander's new Porsche? Couldn't he sell that? Don't be ridiculous, she snapped. He needs to maintain appearances. How else will he attract the right kind of investors? And my appearance doesn't matter. That's different. She waved her hand vaguely. You're just not in those circles anyway. In those circles, I thought about the charity gala I'd be hosting next month as Eleanor Wright's heir, where half of Chicago's elite would be in attendance. But my mother didn't know about that. I'm sorry, Mom. I can't empty my savings account. I need to pay rent. She stood up, anger replacing desperation. How can you be so selfish? After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me? The question hung in the air between us. For a moment, confusion crossed her face, as if she were genuinely trying to remember any significant thing they'd done to help me succeed. We gave you a good home, an education. The education I paid for with student loans, you mean? The same loans you refused to help with because you were funding Alexander's third startup. That's not fair. Alexander has vision. He just needs support too. Get out. My voice was quiet but firm. Excuse me. Get out of my store, Mom. And don't ask me for money again. She left in a fury of slammed doors and threats, but I wasn't worried. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. That evening, I received another call, this time from my father. Sophia, we need to discuss this situation like adults, he began, his business negotiation voice in full effect. Your mother tells me you were quite unhelpful today. I can't give you my savings, Dad. Now listen here, young lady. This family has a reputation to maintain. We can't have the house foreclosed. Do you have any idea what that would do to our standing? To Alexander's prospects? I thought about the foreclosure notices being prepared in my lawyer's office at that very moment. Maybe Alexander could help? He just bought a new Porsche. He must have money. That's different. That was an investment in his future. He needs to project success to be successful. And what about my future? He sighed heavily. Sophia, let's be realistic. You work in a bookstore. Your future is, well, it's already set, isn't it? But Alexander has real potential. The words stung, even though I'd heard variations of them my entire life. I'm sorry, Dad. I can't help. Then you're no daughter of mine. The line went dead. I sat in my luxurious office, looking out over the city lights, and smiled. Soon they would learn exactly what kind of daughter I was. The bankruptcy hearing was scheduled for 9:00 a.m. on a crisp October morning. I arrived early, watching from my car as my family pulled up in Alexander's Porsche, apparently the only vehicle they had left. My mother's designer outfit was pristine, but last season. My father's suit looked tired, and even Alexander's usual smirk seemed strained. They hadn't seen me yet, didn't know I was here. As far as they knew, their wayward daughter was still counting pennies at her bookstore. I waited until they entered the courthouse before following. Inside my briefcase were documents that would change everything. Proof of ownership, transfer records, and the truth about who really controlled their fate. The bankruptcy courtroom was already filling up. Chicago's elite had come to witness the fall of the Maxwell family. My parents sat in the front row, heads held high despite their circumstances. Alexander slouched beside them, tapping on his phone. All rise. The bailiff called as Judge Marion Wheeler entered. She was known for her no-nonsense approach to bankruptcy cases, particularly those involving what she called self-inflicted financial wounds. Case number 2847. Maxwell Family Bankruptcy Petition, she announced, reviewing the papers before her. I see the creditor's representative is present. This was my cue. I stood up from my seat in the back, straightening my channel suit. Not that my family would recognize it as such. They'd never seen me wear anything but off-the-rack clothing. Yes, Your Honor. Sophia Wright, representing Wright Investments. The reaction was immediate. My mother's perfectly maintained facade cracked as she whirled around. My father's face went pale, and Alexander actually dropped his phone. Sophia. My mother's voice was barely a whisper. I walked to the front of the courtroom, placing my briefcase on the creditor's table. Good morning, Mother. Father. Alexander. What is the meaning of this? My father demanded, starting to rise before his lawyer pulled him back down. Judge Wheeler banged her gavel. Mr. Maxwell, you will maintain order in my courtroom. Ms. Wright, please proceed. Your Honor, Wright Investments holds all outstanding debts of the Maxwell family, including their primary residence mortgage, personal loans, and credit accounts. The total sum is approximately $12.7 million. That's impossible, Alexander blurted out. Sophia works in a bookstore. I smiled. Actually, I own the bookstore, along with the building it's in, and most of the block. I'm the CEO of Wright Investments, formerly known as Eleanor Wright Enterprises. The courtroom erupted in whispers. My grandmother had been a legend in Chicago business circles, though few had known her face. Order, Judge Wheeler commanded. Ms. Wright, continue. 3 years ago, I inherited my grandmother's entire estate, valued at approximately $50 million. During that time, I watched as my parents repeatedly refinanced their home to fund my brother's failed ventures and maintain their lifestyle. Through various holding companies, I purchased all their debt. My mother was openly crying now, her carefully applied makeup running. My father sat frozen, perhaps finally understanding the magnitude of their situation. However, I continued, I'm not here to demand immediate repayment. I have a proposal. I withdrew a document from my briefcase. I'm willing to restructure all outstanding debts under the following conditions. First, Alexander's spending privileges will be completely cut off. He'll need to find actual employment, not another startup opportunity. Alexander jumped up. You can't do this. I'm your brother. Sit down, Mr. Maxwell. Judge Wheeler ordered. Continue, Ms. Wright. Second, my parents will undergo financial counseling and maintain strict budget oversight. Third, they will sell the mansion and move into a more modest home, which I have already purchased for them. This is ridiculous. My father finally found his voice. You're our daughter. You can't treat us this way. I turned to face them fully for the first time. Can't I? For 20 years, you treated me like I was nothing. You mocked my job, dismissed my achievements, and poured every resource into Alexander, while leaving me to fend for myself. When you needed help, you demanded my savings, all $3,000 you thought I had, without a second thought. We gave you everything, my mother protested. No, Mother. You gave Alexander everything. I built this myself. Or rather, Grandmother helped me build it. She taught me that true character shows when people think you have nothing, and you've shown yours very clearly. Judge Wheeler reviewed the proposed agreement. The terms seemed fair, considerably more generous then standard bankruptcy proceedings. Do the Maxwells wish to accept? My father's lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. They really had no choice. It was this or lose everything. We accept, my father ground out. Excellent, I said, retrieving more documents. Here are the keys to your new house. It's a lovely 3-bedroom in Laken Park. The moving company will arrive tomorrow. Oh, and Alexander? I turned to my brother. The dealership has been instructed to repossess the Porsche. I've arranged for a used Toyota to be delivered instead. The next hour was a blur of signatures and legal proceedings. My parents barely looked at me, their shame and anger palpable. Alexander stormed out as soon as he could, probably to move money I'd already frozen. As I left the courthouse, I heard quick footsteps behind me. Why? My mother's voice was small. Why did you let us fall so far before revealing the truth? I turned to face her. Because you needed to learn. Money isn't what makes a person valuable, Mother. Neither are appearances or social standing. I wanted you to understand what it feels like to be judged for your bank account rather than your character. And now, will you ever forgive us? That depends on you. The house I bought you is nice. Not luxurious, but comfortable. Your new budget is reasonable. Not extravagant, but adequate. What you do with this second chance is up to you. I walked to my car, not the Honda Civic they were familiar with, but a sleek Mercedes I'd kept hidden until now. Oh, and Mother, I called back. That blue dress you wanted me to wear to Alexander's party. I bought the company that makes it last year. They've discontinued that particular style. It was hideous. The look on her face was worth every second of the past 3 years. 3 months later, I sat in my office reviewing reports. My parents had actually stuck to their budget, attending financial counseling without complaint. Alexander had finally taken a real job, entry level, of course, and was learning what actual work felt like. On my desk sat a new photo frame containing an old picture of my grandmother and me in front of her favorite bookstore, the same one I now owned. Her words from that final letter still rang true. Sometimes people show their truest selves only when they think you have nothing. But she had taught me something else too. Sometimes the greatest power lies not in wealth itself, but in choosing when to reveal it.